What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the shelf, and today I want you guys to join me as I downsize my Blu-ray collection. You might notice we got a little bit of a different setup here today. It's because I wanted to give you guys a good look at my shelf and join me as I go through it and pick out some of the titles that, frankly, I just do not need anymore. So for a bit of background, when I was first getting into this, I prioritized having a big collection. I saw people with big collections and I wanted to have a big collection as well. So in the process of doing that, I picked up a lot of titles that aren't very good, Dollar General titles, I refer to them as. And in the time since, I've mainly gotten rid of those. There are still a few that I haven't gotten rid of, but that's what we're here to do today. There's something about the process of getting rid of titles from your collection that can give you pause. I have stuff on this shelf that has never been watched, and yet I still can't get rid of it because I'm like, well, one day I might want to watch that. And it's truly kind of puzzling because on one hand, I want to get rid of it to make the space, but on the other, something is just like, I have like a mental block in my head where I'm like, maybe one day, might want to watch that. But today I have come up with a list of like 9 or so movies here, and I'm going to get rid of those, and I'm going to explain why. So the first movie that I'm going to be getting rid of is called The Comeback. So this is a Redemption Films release, which I believe is a partner label of Kino Lorber, and it is also a Pete Walker film. Pete Walker is going to be a name that we talk about a bit because I've blind bought a handful of his movies based on the title, the cover, and the plot synopsis, thinking that they would be good. And I was sadly mistaken. So, to the best of my knowledge, Pete Walker is an English filmmaker, and he has a certain style, as is common with British horror. It's got this kind of feel to it that is kind of lifeless. It's kind of lackluster. It feels very sterile, very talky, and just overall not very memorable. I know for a fact that I've watched this film because I logged it on Letterboxd, but I couldn't tell you a single thing that happens in this movie. I came away from it thinking that it was kind of a waste of time and frankly something that I'll never watch again. And for a while, I had this, kind of notion in my head, well, it's a Kino Lorber release. I don't want to get rid of a Kino Lorber release. That's a label that I like. You have to dispel that notion in your mind. If you're similar to me and you have that kind of notion where you're like, this is a Scream Factory title, I can't get rid of a Scream Factory. Throw that in the trash. That mentality needs to go. I'm at the point now where I don't care if this is a Kino Lorber title. I'm getting rid of it. Next up, we got another Kino Lorber title. This is Curse of the Undead. Similar with The Comeback, Curse of the Undead I got on one of Kino Lorber's sales that they do. And honestly, some of the most fun I used to have shopping for Blu-rays was when I would go on Kino Lorber's website when they would have their sales. And I used to love clicking on the cool covers that they have and kind of reading the synopsis and being like, oh, that's a cool movie. And I've made a lot of cool discoveries that way. But in the process of doing that, you're also going to have a couple duds. And Curse of the Undead is one of those. It's sort of this black and white Western, and the antagonist is a vampire, but it kind of just plays out like a Western where the antagonist just happens to be a vampire, but he doesn't really do a lot of vampire-y things. This is another one where I can really appreciate the artistry of it. It's an interesting sort of time capsule. It's a nice look back at movies of this generation, of this era. But, at the end of the day, I'm never going to watch this again. And I know that I'm never going to put it in the player. I enjoyed my time with it for what it was, but ultimately, like, if I'm being true to myself, I just know that I'm never going to pop this in again. So Curse of the Undead it's a cool movie for the time. It's pretty revolutionary. I believe it was the first movie to ever like mix cowboys and vampires. So like pretty innovative for its time, but I'm just not going to watch this again. Right next to Curse of the Undead, we have The Cursed. This was one that I saw popping up a lot on Instagram and stuff a couple years back. And it was sort of being hailed as this kind of super underrated sleeper hit. Really cool, like, werewolf movie. And, you know, I thought it was okay. I think because of all the hype, it led me to buying this blind. And then I watched it, and I think we all kind of do this thing where we, like, trick ourselves into thinking that it was better than it was in order to justify our purchase. I know I've certainly done this. Perhaps some of you have done it as well. I definitely did that with The Cursed. And, you know, again, cool movie. I appreciate it. I like Boyd Holbrook. He's a good actor, but I'm never going to watch this again. I just know that I'm not, so it has to go. That's sort of where I'm at now. All right, next up is Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Similar to Kino Lorber, Warner Archive used to have these sales called the 4 for 44 sale. And I did the same thing as I did with Kino with Warner Archive. I would go through, read the plot synopsises, find cool movies based on the cover, based on the title. And it was really a fun time of discovery for me. But the point I'm at now in my collecting life is like, I can't be doing that. It's not worth the money. I have too many titles that are already unwatched on this shelf to be bringing more in. So like my goal now is to watch the stuff that's unwatched and get rid of the stuff that will not be watched again. That's my goal moving forward. But anyway, this is a cool little TV movie. I believe they remade this back in like 2010. And for a 70s TV movie, it's about what you would expect. It's very talky. It's light on effects, you know, low budget sort of thing. But it's cool for what it was. Ultimately, I don't really remember a lot about this, and that's a good indicator that if I don't remember a lot about this movie, probably didn't do a lot for me, and I'm ultimately going to be less inclined to ever revisit this. So this is going to have to go, unfortunately. Look at this. I'm seeing gaps in the shelf. This is nice. This is what we're looking for, folks. Another Warner Archive release. This is The Hidden, directed by Jack Shoulder, who I believe did... what did he do? Did he do Nightmare 2? Let me check. Yeah, Nightmare 2, which is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And he also did a movie called Alone in the Dark, which I have on the Scream Factory shelf. But this is cool. This is a cool movie. It's got Kyle MacLachlan in it. It's like a body snatcher sort of thing where this guy is jumping from body to body, committing crimes, and the police are like trying to figure out how this murder can take place here. And then, you know, they've supposedly got the culprit, and then he shifts into someone else's body. So they quickly realize that they're dealing with something not human. And, you know, it's a cool movie. It's a cool movie. I think it's unique. And I wish I could, and I can keep this, but on the other hand, I feel like I really can't, because while I have an appreciation for these movies and an appreciation for like film itself, obviously, but, again, it comes down to that feeling of knowing deep down when it comes time for me to watch a movie and I stand in front of the shelf and I try to think of what to watch, it's not going to be The Hidden. It's just not going to be. And so even in the unlikely event that like 5 years from now, I'll really want to watch this, I'm simply I can't afford to be planning for these very small eventualities that may or may not come to pass. So The Hidden, as much as I kind of respect this movie, it's not something that I feel the need to rewatch ever again. House of the Long Shadows. Yeah, this one caught my eye because it's got Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, and Peter Cushing, who are like all of the 70s Hammer horror guys, which is really what drew me in. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, how do they incorporate all them? Unfortunately, it's also a Pete Walker film, who, as I mentioned, has this very stuffy, sort of like lifeless style to him. I don't know if it's just the fact that he's British or what. I'm sorry if you're British, if that offends you, but like something about that sensibility doesn't really transfer over to like my sensibilities, if that makes any sense at all. But basically, it's this novelist who his friend bets him that he can't write a best-selling novel in 24 hours. And as part of the bet, he has to go to this like haunted mansion and spend the night there to write it. And like hijinks ensue. And ultimately, like, again, like I know I watched this, but I just don't remember anything about it. And it's a shame because it's got all three of these like legends of horror history. But yeah, I mean, I'm simply not going to watch this again. So like, you know, the biggest takeaway is that I probably should have found a way to stream this first. But you know, it is what it is. And it's like, I'm probably in for like $10 for all of these. Like the Warner Archive sales were $10 roughly. Kino was roughly $10 as well during their sales. So you kind of have to not think about that kind of thing. Like I'm looking at a stack of 6 movies now and I'm like, it's $60 that I wasted, but you can't really afford to think about it that way. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I might try to sell some of them. I might just donate them to the library. I'm not really sure, but the point is they can't stay with me anymore because it's just too much. Next up, we got the Mephisto Waltz. This was one that I saw a clip of Tarantino talking to somebody, and he was talking about this movie, and you know, he was praising Alan Alda's performance in it, and just talking about how I believe he was comparing it to Rosemary's Baby and how they were kind of similar, but like this one kind of got swept under the rug because Rosemary's Baby was so popular. And so I found out it was a Kino title, so I decided to check it out. And I remember that it has some pretty striking imagery in some scenes, but like for the most part, this thing was kind of bland. It was kind of boring. And you know, ultimately, I feel like a broken record. I'm just never gonna feel the need to watch this again. So rather than have it be just another spine on my shelf, I'm gonna get rid of it and hopefully give it to someone who will appreciate it more than I do. I didn't realize when I did this that these were mostly all Kino and Warner Archives. But yeah, with the exception of The Cursed, these are all Kino and Warner Archive. So Kino Lorber, we got New Year's Evil, which is an awful, awful slasher film. I think I might have bought this because I was like, yo, I can watch this on New Year's Eve, and that'll be fun. No, it was not. I don't remember a goddamn thing about this movie. There is nothing of note about this movie at all. It's 1980, so like in the wake of Halloween, they were just cranking out like holiday horrors, and I guess this was one of them. And yeah, this is not a good movie. I don't remember a damn thing about it. I probably should have gotten rid of this a lot sooner. But again, it's that feeling of needing to justify our purchases, which I'm so beyond at this point. So this is going bye-bye. And the last one is The Satanic Rites of Dracula, a Hammer horror film from Warner Archive. This one's interesting because it takes what I love about Hammer horror, which is the gothic setting, and it takes it to like modern day, which at the time would have been like the 70s, early 70s. And yeah, that is not a recipe for a good Hammer horror film, in my opinion, because you're kind of taking Dracula and then putting him in the modern day, and you lose all of that charm. That is what I personally go to Hammer horror films for. Yeah, I don't remember anything about this. This thing put me to sleep. Not even Christopher Lee is enough to save this one. So this is going in the stack. So see you later. So yeah, this is what we got. These are all going. And so when I look at this list of titles, I see someone who was taking a chance on some horror movies that he hadn't seen. And, you know, I wish that I had liked these enough to keep them, but the reality is that I will never watch any of these ever again. And that's just a fact, and I know it. And I can't let any sort of buyer's remorse get in the way of that. So these are all gone. I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet. I'm going to put them off to the side and maybe try to sell them as a lot on eBay or something. Or maybe if you're watching this and you want to buy these from me for like super cheap, let me know. We can work that out too, maybe. So yeah, this is me trying to downsize my collection. I'm seeing a lot of gaps in this collection right now, which is really nice. I haven't seen that in a while. And it feels good to just get rid of things, you know? I would encourage you to do the same thing if you're interested. And hopefully this helps you kind of come to terms with the fact that we can't hang on to everything. Which is, that's my place in the physical media YouTube landscape right now, is like, I want to be the guy who shows you a stack of shit that he got rid of. You know, I'm not someone who's super into you know, showing off a ton of stuff and buying everything that's new, because I have too much unwatched stuff. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Rant over. Either way, it was nice to just kind of get rid of some stuff. So yeah, that feels good. But if you like this, let me know. Leave a comment, like the video. Subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and horror in general. So with that being said, take care and watch more movies. So the first title that I want to get rid of and why is going to be called The Comeback. Motherfucker.